Close your eyes. October 1st, 2013, San Francisco, the Glen Park branch of the public library. A young man sits at a table near the back of the room. His name is Ross William Ulbricht. He is 29 years old. He has slightly tousled brown hair, a quiet manner, and the unremarkable appearance of someone you would pass on the street without a second thought. His laptop is open. He is working. What he is working on has nothing to do with libraries or books or any of the quiet, scholarly purposes that the people around him might assume. For the past 2.5 years, Ross Ulbricht has been running one of the most profitable criminal marketplaces in history, a website called Silk Road, an online bazaar operating in the hidden corners of the internet, accessible only through specialized software, where drugs and forged documents and 100 other illegal goods could be bought and sold with Bitcoin in complete anonymity by buyers and sellers who never met and never needed to. At its peak, Silk Road processed over 9.5 million transactions. It generated somewhere in the range of $213 million in revenue. It had tens of thousands of active users on any given day, customers in living rooms and apartments all over the world, ordering things that arrived in ordinary envelopes, indistinguishable from any other piece of mail. Ross had built all of it, designed it, coded it, managed it, moderated it. He had done it under a pseudonym, the Dread Pirate Roberts, a name borrowed from a film, chosen because it conveyed something he believed in, that the identity behind the mask was less important than the mask itself. Across the library, a couple has taken seats nearby. They are federal agents. They have been waiting for this moment for months. One of them starts an argument, loud enough, real enough, to draw Ross's attention. In the moment he looks up, the other agent grabs his laptop. This is the critical thing. The laptop cannot be allowed to lock. If Ross manages to close the lid or press a single key combination, everything on it will be encrypted. The evidence will be gone. The case will collapse. He does not get the chance. In under 3 seconds, Ross William Ulbricht, the Dread Pirate Roberts, the founder of Silk Road, the man who had built a Darknet empire on Bitcoin and libertarian philosophy, is in handcuffs. His laptop is open on the table. Its screen is still lit. This is the end of the story. But tonight, we are going to go back to the beginning. We are going to ask how a physics graduate student from Austin, Texas, built one of the most sophisticated criminal enterprises in internet history. How Bitcoin made it possible. What Ross believed he was doing, and why, even now after a life sentence, after years of legal appeals and a pardon from a sitting president, the story of Silk Road refuses to be simple. Get comfortable. Let your body settle. This is the story of Silk Road. This moment, though brief, is pivotal. It is the culmination of meticulous planning by law enforcement, an intricate dance performed to perfection. The couple, far from ordinary, are agents orchestrating his arrest, their actions designed to capture both Ross and the digital empire to which he clings. The laptop, carelessly removed from his grasp, is more than a tool. It is a gateway, still logged into the administrative panel of the Silk Road. As Ross is apprehended, the echoes of this operation reverberate far beyond the library's walls. It is a story that begins with ideals of freedom and anonymity, but spirals into a complex network of criminality and pursuit. It is a story that will lead us into the heart of the Silk Road, a journey through ambition, ethics, and the digital frontier. The tale of how one man's vision reshaped an emerging landscape of commerce and brought him into the crosshairs of the law. And so, we begin with Chapter 1. As Ross is apprehended, the echoes of this operation reverberate far beyond the library's walls. It is a story that begins with ideals of freedom and anonymity, but spirals into a complex network of criminality and pursuit. It is a story that will lead us into the heart of the Silk Road, a journey through ambition, ethics, and the digital frontier. The tale of how one man's vision reshaped an emerging landscape of commerce and brought him into the crosshairs of the law. And so we begin with Chapter 1. The scene unfolds on October 1st, 2013, in the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library. A quiet place where people come to read and reflect suddenly becomes the epicenter of a dramatic arrest. Ross William Ulbricht, then 29 years old, sits at a table, his eyes fixed intently on the screen of his laptop. Unbeknownst to him, this very moment marks the culmination of a covert operation months in the making. The FBI had been closing in, deploying a strategy to catch him red-handed, logged into the Silk Road's admin panel. It was crucial that they arrested him with his laptop open, preventing him from encrypting or destroying the evidence. The tension in the air was palpable as agents moved in, distracting him just long enough to snatch the laptop from his grasp. The arrest was swift, yet the story leading up to it was anything but simple. The Silk Road, an online marketplace shrouded in anonymity, had become infamous for its facilitation of illegal transactions. Drugs, weapons, and counterfeit goods were bought and sold, cloaked in the secrecy of the dark web. But for Ross, it was more than just a marketplace. It was a manifestation of his ideals, a libertarian utopia in the digital age. Rewind to the early days before the notoriety and the manhunt. Ross Ulbricht was a promising student from Austin, Texas, with a keen interest in physics and a penchant for libertarian philosophy. Raised in a middle-class family, he was encouraged to think freely and challenge the status quo. These formative years would shape his worldview and eventually seed the idea for a radical new kind of marketplace. In his 20s, Ross grappled with the constraints of conventional commerce, questioning the necessity of government oversight in personal transactions. Influenced by authors like Ludwig von Mises and Milton Friedman, he envisioned a society where individuals could trade freely without the heavy hand of regulation. This vision was the foundation upon which he would build the Silk Road. His journey into the digital frontier began with a modest start. Armed with technical skills and an unyielding determination, Ross set out to create a platform that would enable users to buy and sell goods anonymously. In 2011, the Silk Road emerged from the shadows, accessible only through the Tor network, which masked users' identities and locations. It was a revolutionary concept, a libertarian experiment unbound by traditional restrictions. However, this newfound freedom came with its own set of challenges. The dark web marketplace quickly gained notoriety, attracting attention from law enforcement agencies worldwide. Within 2 years, the Silk Road facilitated over 9.5 million transactions, generating approximately $213 million in revenue. The staggering volume of illicit goods being traded caught the eye of authorities, setting in motion a relentless pursuit to bring its operator to justice. As the marketplace thrived, fueled by Ross's vision, it also became a hub for criminal activity. The ethical dilemmas surrounding the platform were profound, forcing society to confront complex questions about the intersection of technology, freedom, and morality. Could such a platform exist without descending into chaos and lawlessness? Could the ideals of personal liberty justify the sale of dangerous substances? For Ross, these questions were more than theoretical. They were the underpinnings of his creation. His belief in the power of individual choice was unwavering, even as the FBI honed in on his digital empire. The agents tasked with dismantling the Silk Road were relentless, employing innovative tactics to infiltrate the network and gather the evidence needed for a conviction. The operation led them across digital landscapes, through encrypted pathways, and finally to the library in San Francisco. It was there, amid unsuspecting patrons and the quiet hum of everyday life, that the saga reached its dramatic peak. The arrest was a testament to the lengths authorities would go to combat the burgeoning threat of online criminality. Ross's capture marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. one that would unfold in courtrooms and echo through headlines worldwide. The repercussions of his actions extended far beyond the confines of the Silk Road. They sparked debates about privacy, anonymity, and the future of commerce in an increasingly digital world. As he was led away, the library returned to its usual calm, yet the impact of that day would linger. The downfall of the Silk Road was a turning point, a moment when the digital frontier collided with the forces of law and order. It was a reminder that even in the vast, uncharted territories of cyberspace, actions have consequences, and ideals, no matter how noble, can lead to unforeseen ends. In the years that followed, the story of Ross Ulbricht and the Silk Road continued to captivate and provoke. It compelled society to reevaluate the balance between liberty and security in the digital age. As we delve deeper into this tale, we explore the nuances of a visionary's dream and the ripple effects of its collapse. From the quiet corners of a library to the intricate networks of the dark web, this story challenges us to consider the role of technology in shaping our world. It is a journey that delves into the heart of human ambition and error, a story not just of a man, but of the collective conscience grappling with the possibilities and perils of our digital future. And as we close this chapter, we look forward to understanding the man behind the vision, the ideals that drove him, and the path that led to the creation of the Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht sat quietly in the small Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library, absorbed in the digital world he had created. It was October 1st, 2013, a date that would soon mark a pivotal moment in his life. As he stared at the glowing screen of his laptop, his mind was far from the quiet library. Instead, it wandered through the vast corridors of the Silk Road, the online marketplace he had meticulously built. Ross was born on March 27, 1984, in Austin, Texas, into a family that valued curiosity and knowledge. Growing up, his interests ranged widely, from physics to economics, reflecting a mind constantly seeking to understand the underlying rules of the world. His upbringing in Austin, a city known for its eclectic culture and independent spirit, played a significant role in shaping his worldview. It was here that he first encountered the libertarian ideals that would later drive his ambitious project. After completing high school, Ross attended the University of Texas at Dallas, where he earned a degree in physics in 2006. His academic journey continued at Pennsylvania State University, where he pursued a master's degree in materials science. However, academia wasn't where his heart truly lay. Ross was drawn to the entrepreneurial world, a place where he believed true freedom could be found. Ross's fascination with libertarianism deepened over time, influenced by thinkers like Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard. He was particularly inspired by their advocacy for free markets and individual liberty. These ideals resonated with him on a profound level, laying the groundwork for his future endeavors. Ross envisioned a world where transactions were free from government oversight, a place where anonymity was paramount. This vision eventually culminated in the creation of the Silk Road, a digital frontier that promised to reimagine commerce. Launched in 2011, the Silk Road was built on the Tor network, allowing users to navigate the marketplace without revealing their identities. Alongside Bitcoin, which enabled anonymous transactions, the platform thrived as a haven for those seeking privacy in their dealings. It was a revolutionary concept, one that quickly gained a devoted following. Building the Silk Road was no small feat. Ross faced numerous technical and logistical challenges as he worked to create a secure and user-friendly platform. The design had to ensure absolute anonymity, a task that required a deep understanding of computer science and cryptography. Ross's dedication to his vision was unwavering, fueling his late nights and tireless efforts. In its early days, the Silk Road's marketplace offered a wide array of goods, from books and apparel to more controversial items like illicit drugs. Its existence sparked a thriving community of buyers and sellers, united by the promise of privacy and freedom. By 2013, the Silk Road had facilitated over 9.5 million transactions, generating approximately $213 million in revenue. It was a testament to the power of Ross's vision and his ability to bring it to life. The platform wasn't just about commerce, it represented a philosophical stand. For many of its users, the Silk Road was a symbol of resistance against governmental control and censorship. Ross believed he was championing a cause greater than himself, one that aligned with his libertarian values. He saw the Silk Road as a vehicle for social change, a way to empower individuals by giving them control over their own transactions. However, the rise of the Silk Road did not go unnoticed by law enforcement agencies. The anonymity and scale of the operations made it a prime target for government scrutiny. Agencies like the FBI and DEA became increasingly determined to uncover the identity of the person behind the digital curtain. The elusive figure known as Dread Pirate Roberts, Ross's online pseudonym, became a subject of intense investigation. For law enforcement, dismantling the Silk Road was a complex and challenging endeavor. The encrypted nature of the Tor network made it difficult to track users or administrators. But with persistence, investigators gradually pieced together evidence, following the digital breadcrumbs that would eventually lead them to Ross. It was a cat-and-mouse game played out in the shadows of the internet. On the morning of October 1st, 2013, the FBI moved decisively to arrest Ross. Agents had orchestrated a plan to catch him in the act, ensuring he was logged into the Silk Road's admin panel when they apprehended him. In the library, amidst the quiet study spaces and rows of books, Ross was confronted with the end of his digital empire. He was taken into custody, marking the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where he would no longer be the architect of his own destiny. As Ross was escorted out of the library that day, many questions loomed large. His arrest signaled not just the fall of a digital empire, but also the onset of a debate that would challenge ideas of freedom, privacy, and regulation in the digital age. The story of the Silk Road and of Ross Ulbricht was far from over. It would continue to unfold in the courtroom, where the implications of his actions would be scrutinized and his vision tested against the law. Ross Ulbricht's journey from a young man with revolutionary ideas to the central figure in a landmark case illustrates the complexities of an increasingly digital world. As we move forward to explore the arrest and its aftermath, the narrative reveals the intricate dance between innovation and regulation. The rise of the Silk Road was just the beginning. What followed would challenge all notions of freedom in the digital era. To build an empire in shadows, one must, inevitably, confront the light. When Ross Ulbricht set out to construct the Silk Road, he was not merely erecting a marketplace. He was crafting a complex web of technology and trust, a delicate balance that needed nurturing at every turn. The spring of 2011 saw him seated in his modest apartment in Austin, Texas, surrounded by the hum of computer fans and the glow of multiple screens. Here, he embarked on a journey that would redefine digital commerce. The challenge was immense. Create a platform that allowed for anonymous transactions, shielded by the veil of the dark web. Ulbricht, leveraging his knowledge of physics and computer science, turned to Tor, a network that could obscure users' identities and locations. Tor, short for the Onion Router, was initially developed by the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory to protect government communications. Now it would serve as the backbone for an illicit digital bazaar. The complexity of coding such a site was daunting, but for Ross, each line written was a step closer to actualizing his vision. Ross meticulously designed the Silk Road to operate like a traditional e-commerce site, albeit with a revolutionary twist: complete anonymity for buyers and sellers. Cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, became the currency of choice, as they provided the essential layer of secrecy. In 2011, Bitcoin was still in its infancy, valued at mere cents, yet it held the potential to facilitate untraceable transactions. Ross understood the importance of this innovation, recognizing it as the cornerstone of his endeavor. By June 2011, the Silk Road was live. Visitors accessed the site via Tor, greeted by a marketplace far removed from the constraints of the law. Drugs were the primary commodity, but the listings expanded rapidly, offering everything from fake IDs to weapons. Despite its illegal nature, the Silk Road operated under a peculiar code of ethics, enforced by Ross himself. No child pornography, no stolen goods, and no services that could harm an individual, he decreed. It was a rule set that, in his mind, separated his creation from mere criminality. As the platform gained traction, Ulbricht adopted the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, a nod to the character from The Princess Bride. This alias served a dual purpose. It offered a layer of personal protection and cultivated an aura of mystique around the site's operator. Under this guise, Ross fostered a community bound by libertarian ideals, a digital agora where freedom trumped regulation. He engaged with users on forums, discussing philosophy, economics, and the future of commerce. To many, he was not just the site's administrator. He was a leader, a visionary dreaming of a world unchained by government interference. The success of the Silk Road was staggering. By mid-2012, it had facilitated hundreds of thousands of transactions, generating millions in revenue. Estimates suggest that at its peak, the marketplace was handling sales of $1.2 million per month, a testament to its rapid growth. The anonymity it afforded attracted not only buyers, but also a degree of notoriety. Media outlets began to take notice, debating the implications of such a marketplace on society and the law. While the Silk Road thrived, Ross faced the constant threat of exposure. Maintaining operational security was paramount, as any mistake could unravel the empire he had meticulously built. He moved from Austin to San Francisco, seeking a fresh start and a chance to blend into a new environment. There, in the vibrant city by the bay, Ross continued his clandestine operations, all the while eluding the watchful eyes of law enforcement. But the anonymity that Tor and Bitcoin promised was not absolute. The FBI, along with other international law enforcement agencies, had taken notice of the Silk Road. They embarked on a concerted effort to infiltrate and dismantle the marketplace. This endeavor was fraught with challenges, not least the cryptographic barriers and the decentralized nature of the dark web. Yet piece by piece, they gathered clues, tracing digital breadcrumbs left by less cautious users. In September 2013, the investigation reached a critical juncture. A former Silk Road administrator, Curtis Green, offered the FBI valuable insights into the site's operations. His cooperation marked a turning point, providing a clearer picture of the intricate network Ross had constructed. With this new intelligence, agents honed in on Ulbricht, mapping his online activities to physical locations. The noose was tightening, yet Ross remained unaware. He frequented the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library, a seemingly innocuous location to conduct his affairs. It was here on October 1, 2013, that his journey would reach a dramatic conclusion. As he sat in the library, eyes fixed on the laptop before him, FBI agents were preparing to make their move, determined to catch him logged into the Silk Road's admin panel. Ross's arrest would not merely signify the end of the Silk Road, but would also herald a new era in the digital landscape, one where the lines between freedom and regulation were continually redrawn. As law enforcement closed in, the world watched, eager to see if the elusive Dread Pirate Roberts would finally be unmasked. And as the chapter closed on Ross's creation, a new story began. One of legal battles and philosophical debates about the essence of freedom in a digital age. The library, with its musty pages and quiet corners, would forever be etched in history as the site of a pivotal moment in the battle between anonymity and accountability. Yet, the story of the Silk Road was far from over. For as the dust settled, questions lingered, challenging the very fabric of how we perceive digital spaces and the nature of free will within them. Ross Ulbricht's dream was now a subject of scrutiny, his ideals tested in the crucible of law. The arrest was a moment of reckoning, not just for him, but for a society grappling with the possibilities and perils of the internet. As the curtain fell on this chapter, another one awaited, ready to unravel the intricate ties between freedom, technology, and the law. As the curtain fell on this chapter, another one awaited, ready to unravel the intricate ties between freedom, technology, and the law. The Silk Road was not just an online marketplace. It was a radical experiment in libertarian ideals and the limits of technology. When Ross Ulbricht, who had dreamed of decentralization and freedom from government oversight, clicked launch on his creation, he set in motion a series of events that would eventually lead to his undoing. The marketplace grew at an unprecedented rate, drawing the attention of users and law enforcement alike. The year was 2011 when the Silk Road first appeared on the dark web. Initially, it was a small community, a clandestine corner of the internet, where anonymity was both a promise and a guarantee. Within months, it burgeoned into a bustling bazaar of illicit goods, shielded by Tor encryption and Bitcoin transactions. In its heyday, the Silk Road facilitated over 9.5 million transactions, generating approximately $213 million in revenue. These numbers, staggering in their magnitude, underscored the scale of the operation Ross had masterminded. For Ross, the Silk Road was more than a business. It was the embodiment of his philosophy. Born and raised in Austin, Texas, Ross was a fervent believer in the power of free markets and minimal government intervention. His libertarian ideals, deeply embedded in his psyche, were reflected in the marketplace he created. Yet, as the Silk Road thrived, the very principles Ross championed became points of contention and debate. Could unregulated freedom coexist with the rule of law? Amidst the rapid growth, the Silk Road community evolved into a diverse ecosystem of sellers and buyers. Vendors, from all corners of the globe, offered everything from narcotics to digital goods, while buyers appreciated the promise of anonymity and the security of escrow payments. The marketplace was not just a place to exchange goods. It became a forum for dialogue on freedom, privacy, and the ethical boundaries of online commerce. But beneath the surface, danger lurked, as the marketplace's success painted a target on its back. By 2012, law enforcement agencies worldwide had turned their gaze toward this elusive Darknet marketplace. The FBI, DEA, and other agencies began pooling resources to infiltrate the Silk Road, engage its users, and decipher its operations. Meanwhile, Ross, under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, orchestrated the complex dance of maintaining anonymity while managing the site's daily operations. It was a high-wire act, and one misstep could lead to exposure. The authorities faced a formidable challenge: how to penetrate a network designed to be impregnable. Traditional investigative methods had to be adapted for the digital realm. Undercover agents, posing as drug dealers or buyers, joined the marketplace. They painstakingly gathered evidence, hoping to trace digital breadcrumbs back to the enigmatic leader, Dread Pirate Roberts. It was a game of cat and mouse, played out in the shadows of the deep web. On October 1st, 2013, the trap that law enforcement had been carefully setting finally snapped shut. Ross Ulbricht was arrested at the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library. The arrest was meticulously orchestrated. Agents waited for the perfect moment to approach him with his laptop open and logged into the Silk Road's admin panel. This detail was crucial, ensuring they could seize control of the site. At just 29 years old, Ross found himself at the center of a legal storm. His arrest marked the beginning of a new chapter, one in which the ideals of freedom and privacy he held dear would be fiercely examined under the harsh light of the courtroom. The charges against him were severe: conspiracy to commit money laundering, computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics. Each charge carried the weight of his actions, translating his digital rebellion into tangible consequences. The trial began in January 2015, held in the Southern District of New York. It was a spectacle that drew public and media attention, highlighting the clash between digital anonymity and legal accountability. Prosecutors painted Ross as a criminal kingpin, while his defense portrayed him as a scapegoat, arguing that Dread Pirate Roberts was a mantle assumed by multiple individuals. The trial was not merely about the Silk Road. It was a referendum on the power and reach of the Internet, a test of the balance between individual freedom and societal safety. As the trial unfolded, testimonies from former Silk Road employees and users provided glimpses into the operation's inner workings. Even as the prosecution laid bare the darker side of the marketplace, there were voices that spoke of its principles, its community, and its impact on the conversations around drug policy and personal freedom. The courtroom became a theater where the ideals of the Silk Road were both condemned and contemplated. The verdict, delivered on February 4, 2015, was unequivocal. Ross Ulbricht was found guilty on all counts. The judgment passed reflected the gravity of his actions: a double life sentence without the possibility of parole, a punishment that underscored the severity of his crimes in the eyes of the law. For Ross, it was the culmination of a journey that began with a vision of freedom and ended in the confines of a prison cell. Yet the story of the Silk Road did not end with the gavel's fall. Its legacy continued to ripple through the digital landscape, influencing the design and security of online marketplaces that followed. The debates it sparked over privacy, regulation, and the future of the Internet persisted, echoing the ideals and controversies that Ross had ignited. As the chapter closed on Ross's personal saga, a broader narrative of technology's potential and peril continued to unfold. The Silk Road, in its rise and fall, became a cautionary tale, a testament to the complex interplay of innovation, ethics, and law. As we turn the page, the next chapter will delve into the aftermath, the enduring impact on digital commerce, and the philosophical questions that linger in its wake. The story of Silk Road is far from over, as it continues to shape the discourse around freedom and regulation in the digital age. The story of Silk Road is far from over, as it continues to shape the discourse around freedom and regulation in the digital age. Ross Ulbricht's arrest on October 1, 2013, marked a pivotal moment in the battle between innovation and law enforcement. In the quiet environs of the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library, a complex web of anonymity was untangled bit by bit. It's worth understanding the relentless pursuit led by law enforcement agencies that eventually cracked the facade of the elusive underground market. The chase began long before Ross settled into that fateful library desk. Federal agents had been aware of the Silk Road's presence on the dark web nearly 2 years prior. The marketplace was rapidly gaining notoriety, and its scale was drawing attention from authorities worldwide. Between 2011 and 2013, Silk Road facilitated over 9.5 million transactions, generating approximately $213 million in revenue. The vast sums of money and the nature of products sold, from illegal drugs to counterfeit goods, demanded a swift and decisive response from law enforcement. The challenge lay in the anonymity provided by the dark web, a cloak that shielded both buyers and sellers alike. Ross Ulbricht, meanwhile, was navigating his dual life with increasing complexity. Born and raised in Austin, Texas, Ross was the embodiment of libertarian ideals. His vision for Silk Road was rooted in a belief in personal freedom and limited governmental oversight. Yet as the marketplace thrived, so did the scrutiny it attracted. Law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security investigations, devised new strategies to infiltrate the marketplace. The goal was to unmask the individual behind the moniker Dread Pirate Roberts. One of the first significant breakthroughs in the investigation was the identification of Silk Road's hosting servers located in Iceland. In June 2013, Homeland Security investigations managed to obtain a mirror image of the server, a crucial step that allowed agents to piece together the intricate workings of the site. It was an arduous process, filled with technical challenges and requiring a collaborative effort across international borders. This glimpse into the back end of Silk Road provided valuable insights into its operational structure and transaction records. Yet, the key to solving the puzzle was not just technical prowess. It required a deep understanding of the human element behind the digital veil. Agents delved into forums and chat rooms, looking for any trace of the Dread Pirate Roberts. They scanned thousands of messages, piecing together clues about the operator's identity. It was in these virtual corridors that Ross occasionally left behind hints of his real identity, albeit unwittingly. In one significant instance, a message posted on a Bitcoin forum early in Silk's history was traced back to Ross's personal email address. It was a small crack, but a crucial one that gave investigators a name to pursue. The investigation intensified, with agents putting together the pieces of Ross's life, from his educational background in physics and his libertarian writings to his recent travels and online activities. Slowly, the image of a man determined to make his ideological vision a reality began to emerge. As the circle tightened, the FBI orchestrated a careful plan to capture Ross with irrefutable evidence. The importance of catching him logged into the Silk Road's admin panel cannot be overstated. It was a decisive tactic designed to avoid any potential legal challenges about the identity of the Dread Pirate Roberts. In preparation, undercover agents tracked Ross's movements, noting his frequent visits to the library where he enjoyed the anonymity of public Wi-Fi. On the morning of October 1st, 2013, the plan was set in motion. Agents were strategically positioned around the library, waiting for the perfect moment. Ross arrived, unaware of the net closing around him. Calmly, he took a seat at a table, opened his laptop, and logged into the Silk Road, as he had done countless times before. The FBI agents, poised for action, waited for their signal. The takedown was swift and orchestrated with precision. An agent created a diversion, prompting Ross to look away from his laptop for a brief moment. In that instant, another agent seized the machine, securing the open session on the admin panel. Ross's arrest was not just the capture of a single individual. It marked the culmination of years of relentless investigative work across multiple agencies. For Ross Ulbricht, the arrest signaled the end of an era. Yet, for many others involved with Silk Road, it was only the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with legal battles and profound questions about privacy, internet freedom, and regulation. The immediate aftermath reverberated in the digital world as copycat sites emerged, each hoping to fill the void left by Silk Road. However, these new platforms lacked the same ideological foundation that Ross had envisioned. The implications of his arrest went beyond the dark web. It sparked debates about the balance between innovation and regulation, individual freedom versus societal protection. These discussions echoed in academic circles, courtrooms, and among policymakers. The world was forced to confront the complexities of a rapidly evolving digital landscape. In the end, the story of Silk Road is more than just a tale of crime and punishment. It serves as a reminder of the power of ideals and the lengths individuals will go to realize them. As we move forward, the legacy of Silk Road continues to challenge our perceptions and demands that we reconsider the boundaries of freedom in an increasingly interconnected world. As we close this chapter, remember that the impact of Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht's actions cannot be confined to just the past. The narratives and consequences continue to unfold, shaping the digital future in ways yet to be fully understood. In the next chapter, we will explore the legal proceedings that followed and their broader implications on internet freedom and digital privacy. In the next chapter, we will explore the legal proceedings that followed and their broader implications on internet freedom and digital privacy. But first, let's return to that pivotal moment on October 1st, 2013, when Ross Ulbricht's world began to unravel completely. It was in the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library that Ross, a 29-year-old with libertarian dreams, faced a sudden and surreal fall from the clandestine heights he had achieved. The library was quiet, a sanctuary of sorts for those seeking solitude among the stacks. Yet that day, it became the stage for an arrest that would resonate deeply within the digital spheres. Law enforcement had meticulously planned this operation, driven by a sense of urgency to capture the man behind the Silk Road, an online marketplace that had facilitated over 9.5 million transactions in a mere 2 years. Ross Ulbricht was sitting at a table, his fingers poised over his laptop. This device was his portal to the hidden empire he had built on the dark web. The Silk Road, as mysterious and complex as the man orchestrating it, was at that very moment live on his screen. Authorities knew the importance of capturing him while he was logged into the system. The moment required precision. It was a cloak and dagger operation that had involved months of surveillance and digital sleuthing. Undercover agents had to distract Ross long enough for another agent to grab the laptop. It was the vital piece of evidence they needed, a digital Rosetta Stone, promising to unlock the inner workings of the Silk Road. In the minutes before the arrest, Ross was unaware of the world closing in around him. He was engrossed in his screen, likely monitoring the ever-moving currents of the marketplace he had crafted. Then, in a moment of orchestrated chaos, agents moved in. An undercover officer pretended to be a couple in a heated argument, capturing Ross's attention just long enough. Seized along with the laptop were the dreams and ideals that had driven him since his time in Austin, Texas. There, in his youth, his life was defined by a unique blend of curiosity and rebelliousness, traits that had led him to this point. Ross had always believed in a world with less restriction, a place where freedom was not just an ideal, but a reality. The arrest was swift, a culmination of efforts from multiple law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and Homeland Security. It was the end of a pursuit that had traversed both technological pathways and human emotions. As the handcuffs clicked into place, Ross was no longer the anonymous figure known only by his pseudonym, Dread Pirate Roberts. He was now a man facing the full scrutiny of the law. The immediate aftermath saw the media descend upon this story with voracious interest. Headlines blared the fall of the kingpin of the dark web, a narrative that sensationalized but only partially captured the truth. For Ross, the reality was stark and intimate, a sudden plunge into the complexities of the legal system he had long sought to circumvent. On February 4, 2015, after a 4-week trial, the courtroom was filled with anticipation. The trial itself was a spectacle, exploring fascinating and often troubling cross-sections of technology, ethics, and legality. The prosecution painted Ross as a criminal mastermind, while the defense attempted to humanize him, to frame his actions within the broader context of his libertarian ideals. The charges were numerous and grave: money laundering, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise. Each accusation carried significant weight, reflecting the magnitude of the Silk Road's operations. The prosecution argued that Ross's actions had facilitated a platform for illicit activities, making him an enabler of harm on an unprecedented scale. Yet, interwoven with these legal arguments were threads of a personal story. Friends and family spoke of Ross's intelligence, his kindness, and his unwavering commitment to his principles. It was a complex narrative, one that defied easy categorization, challenging observers to consider the nuances rather than simply the charges. On May 29, 2015, Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was a grim punctuation mark on a story that had begun with ambitious dreams of freedom. For Ross, the reality of a life behind bars was now his future, a stark departure from the digital realms he had navigated with such prowess. The implications of the trial extended beyond the personal. It became a focal point in discussions about internet freedom and digital privacy. Advocates for a free internet saw in Ross's sentencing a chilling message, one that underscored the tension between individual liberties and state control. In the broader context, the trial raised questions about the architecture of the internet itself. Could an open platform remain free while being a bastion for illicit activity? And where did governance step into this etheric space without quashing innovation and freedom? These questions lingered in the air, sparking debates in tech communities, legal circles, and among ordinary citizens who understood that the outcome resonated beyond the confines of a courtroom. As Ross faced his new reality, the world outside grappled with these considerations, which would shape future policies and societal norms. As we transition to the next chapter, we will delve into the legacy of the Silk Road and its enduring impact on how we conceive online marketplaces today. The conversations it provoked regarding freedom and regulation continue to echo through the corridors of both digital and physical realms, offering a poignant reminder of the complexities in balancing innovation with the rule of law. The trial of Ross Ulbricht began with a flurry of media attention on January 13, 2015, in the Southern District of New York. The courtroom was filled with spectators, journalists, and the curious, each drawn by the saga of the Silk Road. It was a stark contrast to the shadowy corners of the internet where the Silk Road thrived, now brought into the harsh light of legal scrutiny. Prosecutors laid out a complex case, intertwining elements of technology, illicit commerce, and human fallibility. The charges against Ross were both numerous and severe. They included conspiracy to commit money laundering, conspiracy to commit computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics. Each charge painted a picture of a man who had orchestrated a digital empire of vice from behind the safety of a computer screen. The most damning of all was the allegation that he was Dread Pirate Roberts, the infamous pseudonym of the Silk Road's operator. The prosecution argued that Ross had built the Silk Road with full knowledge of the illicit activities it would facilitate. Evidence presented included detailed transaction records, chat logs, and Ross's own journal entries. These documents seemingly captured his thoughts and decisions, casting a long shadow over the libertarian ideals he professed. They showed a man grappling with the immense power and responsibility of his creation. Ross's defense team, led by Joshua Drettel, faced an uphill battle. They contended that while Ross had indeed founded the Silk Road, he had handed over control long before the site's peak in notoriety. The real Dread Pirate Roberts, they argued, was someone else entirely, an unknown figure who had taken the reins and steered the marketplace into darker waters. To bolster their case, the defense pointed to the inherent anonymity of the internet and the possibility that evidence could easily be planted or manipulated. They suggested that Ross was a scapegoat, a convenient face for the authorities to parade in their victory against online crime. Yet the jury was tasked with sifting through mountains of digital evidence, a daunting challenge in any circumstance. The trial was not short on drama, with unexpected revelations and emotional testimonies. Perhaps most gripping were the accounts from families affected by the drugs purchased through the Silk Road. They spoke of loss and tragedy, overdoses that had stolen young lives, leaving behind grieving parents and shattered dreams. These stories added a poignant human element to the courtroom proceedings. On February 4, 2015, after weeks of deliberation, the jury reached its verdict. Ross Ulbricht was found guilty on all counts. The weight of the decision settled heavily on the room, a culmination of a trial that had exposed the underbelly of digital commerce. For Ross, the verdict was devastating. It meant, at the age of 31, he faced the grim possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. The sentencing hearing on May 29, 2015, was equally somber. Judge Catherine Forrest delivered a life sentence without the possibility of parole, a decision she justified by emphasizing the need for deterrence. Her words echoed the broader societal concerns about the potential for digital platforms to facilitate crime on an unprecedented scale. As Ross stood before the court, he expressed remorse, not for the ideology that had driven him, but for the consequences of his actions. He acknowledged the pain caused to so many and expressed a wish to make amends. Yet for those in the courtroom, the sentence was clear and irreversible. It marked the end of Ross's journey through the legal system, but the debate over the Silk Road's legacy was far from concluded. Beyond the courtroom, the repercussions of the Silk Road trial reverberated through the tech community and beyond. It ignited intense discussions about privacy, freedom, and the role of government in policing the internet. Critics argued that the trial's outcome set a dangerous precedent for digital rights, while proponents viewed it as a necessary step towards accountability in cyberspace. In the years following the trial, online marketplaces continued to evolve. New platforms emerged, each learning from the successes and failures of the Silk Road. They adopted more advanced encryption techniques and sophisticated methods to evade law enforcement. Yet, the spirit of the Silk Road lingered, a testament to its impact on digital commerce. Ross's family, particularly his mother Lynn Ulbricht, became vocal advocates for his release. They campaigned tirelessly, appealing to a sense of justice and arguing that the sentence was excessively harsh. Their efforts highlighted the human side of the criminal justice system, a reminder of the lives intertwined with its outcomes. The legacy of the Silk Road also spurred academic inquiry, as scholars dissected its implications for economics, technology, and society. It raised profound questions about the nature of freedom in a digital age, the responsibilities of those who create technology, and the boundaries between innovation and regulation. Yet, for all the analysis and reflection, Ross remained a symbol of the complex interplay between idealism and consequence. His story, etched into the annals of internet history, served as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration. It underscored the power of individuals to shape the world, for better or worse, through the tools of technology. As the world moved forward, the echoes of the Silk Road continued to resonate. It stood as a reminder of the potential for digital platforms to disrupt, to innovate, and to challenge the status quo. The questions it raised about freedom, control, and morality in the digital realm remained as pertinent as ever. In the next chapter, we will explore the broader ramifications of the Silk Road's existence and downfall, delving into its enduring influence on digital commerce and the ethical debates it has sparked. The story of the Silk Road is far from over, and its lessons continue to unfold in the ongoing evolution of the internet. The story of the Silk Road is far from over, and its lessons continue to unfold in the ongoing evolution of the internet. As the dust settled after Ross Ulbricht's arrest, an intricate and labyrinthine investigation began to piece together the tapestry of one of the most audacious ventures in the history of online commerce. The Silk Road had not only challenged the boundaries of legality and ethics, but had also shone a light on the vulnerabilities and potentials of the digital age. The journey to unravel its complexities would require patience, persistence, and a touch of finesse. In the early days following the arrest on October 1st, 2013, federal agents were faced with the daunting task of sifting through a trove of digital evidence. The Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library had been the scene of a carefully orchestrated operation. With Ross Ulbricht apprehended and his laptop still open, law enforcement had a rare opportunity. This device, logged into the Silk Road's admin panel, was a Pandora's box of information. It contained chat logs, transaction records, and the very blueprint of the underground marketplace. The FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division collaborated closely. Each agency brought its expertise to the table, attempting to decipher the codes and encrypted messages that painted a picture of how the Silk Road functioned. Analysts pored over the 9.5 million transactions facilitated by the platform, mapping out the intricate web of buyers and sellers who had thrived in this shadow economy. This collaborative effort was unprecedented in its scope and ambition. The investigation revealed staggering numbers. Approximately $213 million in revenue had flowed through the portal, predominantly in Bitcoin, which was then still emerging as the cryptocurrency of choice for secure and anonymous transactions. The digital currency, with its pseudonymous nature, had provided a veil of secrecy that both emboldened the marketplace and complicated the investigator's task. Tracing the Bitcoin transactions required not only technical skill, but also innovative thinking. Key to the unraveling of the Silk Road's operations was the identification of its kingpin, the Dread Pirate Roberts. Through meticulous analysis of server logs and internal communications, officials confirmed what they had suspected. Ross Ulbricht was indeed the mastermind behind the facade of this enigmatic persona. Yet, the investigation also revealed the impossibility of such an enterprise relying solely on one individual. Ulbricht had operated with the assistance of a small, trusted team. These associates, administrators, moderators, and technical support were scattered across the globe, each contributing to the marketplace's thriving ecosystem. The human stories behind these digital personas added layers to the investigation. It wasn't just about numbers or algorithms. It was about lives intertwined with a radical vision of commerce. From the sellers who found new opportunities in the platform's anonymity to the buyers who risked consequences for convenience, each user had a tale to tell. Some were drawn by desperation, others by ideology or simple curiosity. The Silk Road had become more than a marketplace. It was a community, a reflection of diverse human motives and desires. As investigators delved deeper, they encountered ethical dilemmas of their own. The Silk Road had sparked philosophical debates on privacy, freedom, and regulation. How far should authorities go in policing the digital realm? Where do the lines between protection and overreach blur? These questions lingered, echoing beyond the confines of the courtroom as the case against Ulbricht and his creation took shape. In parallel, the prosecution prepared for what would become a landmark trial. The charges against Ross Ulbricht were severe: money laundering, computer hacking, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and more. With his future hanging in the balance, Ulbricht faced the legal system that would scrutinize both his actions and his intentions. The trial would not only judge a man, but would set precedents in the burgeoning world of internet law. Public interest surged as the trial unfolded, with media coverage turning the courtroom into a stage for debate about the future of digital freedoms. People were drawn to the story for different reasons. Some saw Ulbricht as a criminal mastermind, others as a misguided visionary. The narrative was complicated and nuanced, reflecting the broader societal tensions over innovation, control, and the changing landscape of commerce. Throughout the proceedings, the human element remained front and center. Ross Ulbricht, now 29, stood as both an individual and a symbol. In his expressions and words, observers looked for signs of remorse, understanding, or defiance. Family members and supporters echoed arguments about potential sentencing injustices and the harsh realities of a life behind bars. The weight of the evidence was immense, yet the verdict would be about more than just the facts. It would be about what the Silk Road represented in the collective imagination. The digital frontier had been both enriched and tainted by its existence. As each piece of the puzzle fell into place, the narrative of the Silk Road continued to evolve, offering cautionary tales and opportunities for reflection. The investigation concluded with the understanding that the Silk Road was not just a product of technology, but of human ambition and fallibility. It was a reminder of the power and danger inherent in the digital age, where boundaries are constantly tested and redrawn. The Silk Road's legacy, much like the Internet itself, was complex and ongoing, a story still in the making. With Ross Ulbricht sentenced and the Silk Road dismantled, the chapter seemed to close. Yet, it left a legacy that spurred new innovations, debates, and challenges as the world grappled with the implications of a connected society. As investigators moved on to new cases and the digital world continued to evolve, the lessons of the Silk Road lingered, a potent reminder of the enduring dance between freedom and control. And so, with one chapter ending, another inevitably begins. For as the history of the Silk Road has shown, the story of the Internet is always a work in progress, waiting for the next visionary to turn the page. For as the history of the Silk Road has shown, the story of the Internet is always a work in progress, waiting for the next visionary to turn the page. The tale of Ross Ulbricht and the digital marketplace he constructed remains etched into the annals of cyber history, not only for the audacity of its existence, but for the questions it still raises today. As we delve into the legacy of the Silk Road, we confront not just a bygone platform, but the lingering echoes of a digital revolution that challenged the norms of commerce and ethics. The Silk Road, launched in February 2011, was a pioneer. It was an audacious venture into the uncharted territories of the Internet's dark web, a space that promised anonymity and freedom from oversight. For Ross Ulbricht, a young man with libertarian ideals, it was a manifestation of his belief in the free market. Born on March 27, 1984, in Austin, Texas, Ross grew up in an era where the Internet was burgeoning into a global force. He envisioned a world where individuals could engage in commerce free from government intervention. This vision, however noble in intention, soon became a double-edged sword. The site facilitated over 9.5 million transactions, generating approximately $213 million in revenue. These figures, staggering in their scale, reflect not just the demand for such a platform, but also the profound impact it had on digital commerce. The Silk Road was much more than a marketplace. It was a community, bound by shared ideals of privacy and freedom. Yet, beneath this veneer of idealism lay a host of ethical and legal quandaries. Ross's arrest on October 1, 2013, at the San Francisco Public Library marked a turning point. Captured with his laptop open and logged into the Silk Road's admin panel, the scene was a dramatic culmination of law enforcement's pursuit. The FBI had orchestrated the arrest with tactical precision, seizing the moment in a public space to ensure no data could be destroyed. This moment underscored the tension between privacy and security, a theme that continues to resonate in the digital age. In examining the Silk Road's legacy, we must consider its impact on subsequent online marketplaces. After its closure, a slew of similar platforms emerged, each learning from its predecessor's strengths and vulnerabilities. The dark web, once a shadowy underbelly, became a focal point of both innovation and regulation. The conversation around digital privacy and the extent of governmental oversight intensified, drawing in voices from across the ideological spectrum. The legal proceedings against Ross Ulbricht were emblematic of these debates. Charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics, among other offenses, his trial was a landmark case. Critics argued that his life sentence without parole was excessively harsh, pointing to the broader implications for internet freedom and innovation. Supporters of the sentence, however, saw it as a necessary deterrent against the misuse of digital anonymity. Beyond its legal ramifications, the Silk Road prompted a reevaluation of ethical principles in digital commerce. The site had become notorious for its laissez-faire approach, where anything, regardless of legality, could be bought or sold. This raised questions about the moral responsibilities of platform operators and the extent to which they should be held accountable for user activities. For some, the Silk Road was a cautionary tale of technological hubris. For others, it was a misunderstood experiment in freedom. The human story behind the Silk Road is equally compelling. Ross Ulbricht, now serving his sentence, has become a polarizing figure. To his family and supporters, he remains a visionary wronged by an overly punitive system. To others, he symbolizes the reckless endangerment of societal norms for personal ideologies. This duality reflects the broader narrative of technology's role in shaping human experience, a tool for liberation and a potential for chaos. In hindsight, the Silk Road's existence was a harbinger of the complex relationship between technology, commerce, and ethics. Its rise and fall encapsulate the rapid pace of change in the digital realm, where boundaries are perpetually tested and redrawn. As we contemplate its legacy, we are reminded of the unyielding progression of technology and the inevitable questions it poses. The Silk Road may be gone, but its influence endures, a testament to the enduring quest for autonomy in an interconnected world. As we conclude this chapter, we look forward to the evolving narrative of digital marketplaces. They continue to adapt and innovate, navigating the fine line between freedom and regulation. The Silk Road's story is a chapter in this ongoing saga, a reflection of the Internet's potential for both creation and disruption. The questions it raised about privacy, freedom, and the role of government remain as relevant as ever, echoing into future debates and developments. In the end, the Silk Road's legacy is not merely about a marketplace on the dark web. It is about the enduring human quest for freedom and the complexities that accompany it. As technology continues to evolve, so too do the narratives we construct around it. The Silk Road was a bold experiment, a glimpse into a future that is still being written, one click at a time. And while its story may have ended, the dialogue it inspired is far from over. As we close this chapter, we prepare to embark on the next, a journey that will explore the broader implications of digital privacy and security in an increasingly connected world. The lessons of the Silk Road offer crucial insights as we navigate this new landscape, ever mindful of the balance between innovation and oversight. For in this digital age, the story is never truly over. It only awaits the next chapter, the next visionary, the next catalyst for change. We're left to ponder the lasting echoes of his creation. The Silk Road saga is a reminder of the double edges of human ambition and ingenuity. Ross Ulbricht's vision was not born of malice, but of a profound belief in personal liberty, unfettered by traditional boundaries. Yet, as history repeatedly shows, the pursuit of idealistic dreams often encounters the realities of human behavior, a constant negotiation between freedom and responsibility. Ross's journey through the labyrinthine corridors of technology and commerce illustrates the uncharted territories we navigate in the digital age. His story reveals how money, technology, and trust interact in complex and unpredictable ways. Each transaction on Silk Road was an act of trust in an unseen system, a leap of faith into a realm where the usual safeguards did not apply. The downfall of Silk Road underscores the delicate balance between innovation and regulation. It invites us to consider the ethical dimensions of digital anonymity and the consequences when the lines between legality and freedom blur. The marketplace may have been dismantled, but its legacy persists, sparking ongoing debates about privacy, autonomy, and the role of technology in shaping our lives. As you reflect on this intricate tale, consider what it reveals about our shared human journey. The allure of innovation, the pursuit of ideals, and the inevitable clash with reality tell a story as old as time, one that resonates deeply with the core of human nature. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let your thoughts gently wander through these themes of freedom, trust, and the transformative power of technology. Allow the lessons of the Silk Road to settle softly, like whispers on the wind, guiding you toward a restful peace. May your dreams be filled with the quiet wisdom of reflection, and may the stillness of the night bring you comfort and clarity. Good night.